understand that for a lot of people that sounds like a bold claim. I don't think it's bold at all. I think it's obvious and natural and easy access. Because you see, once you're made aware of a very clear way to not suffer when you don't want to, past that point you can never claim again without losing some integrity that you're suffering but you don't want to suffer. And just a very simple angle into a very profound promise or statement or claim. The claim is, welcome everyone. Good to see you again. Let's start with a short meditation, and then I have a couple of topics I want to get into. So take a deep breath. And relax. Take another deep breath. Hold and relax. Hold. Take another deep breath. Hold. And relax. All right, now breathe normally. And enjoy the relaxation, which is a skill we have unlearned. It sounds so simple, but the ability to enjoy being at ease, the ability to enjoy relaxed awareness, to appreciate it, to value it. And we start with, to follow up on what we've learned already, by stating to ourselves, I don't want anything from anything. For right now, I don't want anything from anyone or anything. I am as I am, perfectly at ease with the perfection of this moment, of my own present awareness. I am what I am, and I'm perfectly at ease with my own present awareness. I can just be and begin to relearn how to enjoy this natural beingness. The natural fact that I exist through simply observing this isness, which I cannot escape. It's the isness of this moment. It's the isness of my very own mind being present right now, my own consciousness. Isness is joy. Might not be apparent right off the bat, but with deepened appreciation, you will find that the natural isness of your natural awareness is joy. Take another deep breath and appreciate this moment as it is. Okay, welcome. I want to address a very core basic topic we essentially just did in this meditation. However, I want to give you a language for this that's very simple, that you could almost teach it to your dog. But at least you can teach this to yourself and maybe your friends, your loved ones, and just a very simple angle into a very profound promise or statement or claim. The claim is, you don't have to suffer when you don't want to, and there is an easy way for you to not suffer when you don't. In other words, feel free to suffer when you want to. You have your reasons. We all have our reasons to suffer. And we believe, in the moment at least, that those reasons are worthwhile. They are worth the suffering. May not always, if ever, be the wisest decision, but we have that free will, and we can suffer with whatever we want to continue to suffer about. So, and this is actually beautiful. Like, I don't have anything against this. Yes, it's delusion in one way, shape, or form, or to some degree, but it is also at the same time a testament of the freedom of the one infinite. Life, creator, source, God, call it what you will. However, that doesn't mean you shouldn't have the tool and the understanding to kind of hack yourself back into your natural happiness, your natural joy, whenever you want to. And often we say we are suffering but don't want to suffer. So I just want to remove that excuse from your life altogether. Because you see, once you're made aware of a very clear way to not suffer when you don't want to, past that point, you can never claim again without losing some integrity that you're suffering but you don't want to suffer. So that's the basic premise here, is there is a clear, clean, simple way to view, to understand, to use terminology that's not spiritual per se, that you could teach to your dog, so to speak, or you could teach to your neighbor, someone not interested, and most of all, you could teach to yourself. And by seeing this knack, this hack, this little switch, by identifying this within yourself, you will be able to stop suffering whenever you want to. So that's the claim. It's a very simple claim. For me to make that is a very easy claim. But I understand that for a lot of people that sounds like a bold claim. I don't think it's bold at all. I think it's obvious and natural and easy access. I get that sometimes it seems difficult, but it's not a bold claim because it's essentially your natural self that we're accessing, and we're pausing the unnatural self, which is causing the suffering. All right, so here goes. Very simple and very brief. This doesn't have to take more than 5-10 minutes. So check with yourself if you agree with the following statements or claims. 1, you have a mind. Agree? Cool. We could even say, okay, everyone has a mind. Not everyone might use it, but everyone has one. All right, so, but at least you have a mind. If you agree to that, great. The next claim is that you know suffering, or you could say that you suffer, at least from time to time, but not specifying when or how long, but you suffer, you know what suffering is like. It's a part of your experience. Would you agree? And I'm not talking about bumping your toe into the rock and hurting. I'm talking about psychological suffering. So do you agree you have a mind and you suffer, or you know what suffering is? So, but then the third claim is the one to really check in with, because not everyone agrees with this. And that is, you can use that mind of claim number 1 that you agree you have to stop the suffering that you have. You can use your mind to stop suffering whenever you want to, at will, regardless of circumstances. So the third claim, really, to state it a little bolder, is you can suffer only when you want to and not when you don't. Do you agree with that? And some of you will, and some of you may have their doubts, because we're victimized in our own thinking, by our own thinking. We have been put in a position of perceiving ourselves as small, vulnerable, and victimized, or victimizable. And there's all kinds of reasons we give, all kinds of logic. It may not be sound logic in the final analysis, but nevertheless, it's a logic that we are permitted to choose, and that seems realistic to us in the moment, especially when we're suffering, that attributes a cause to our suffering to something that seems to be out of our control. And I'm not saying someone can't hurt you in a way that is relatively accurate. Whether physically or verbally or emotionally, it's not ultimately true. I don't ultimately subscribe to this, but I understand the reasoning. And you could roughly say, if someone's lying to you after a lifelong commitment together and whatever, those kinds of things, you can say, okay, they are committing an action against integrity, against this commitment that we've had. It's not a fair exchange of energy. It's not a fair exchange of commitment. Therefore, you could loosely say, okay, this person has done me some harm, or at least they've done their self-harm in terms of their integrity. And because I'm so personally engaged with that, I feel that pain. I feel that. I'm sensitive. I'm empathetic. I feel that pain. I feel it as my own. I feel it as their own. So, okay, fine, that's valid, up to a certain degree of truth. In ultimate truth, however, that's not valid, because it's still a choice. And this is what we do want to get to truly empower ourselves beyond the range of circumstances, beyond the range of other people's choices. Is that something that you even want? Many people will say yes, but then what if the requirement for this level of freedom of suffering at will whenever you want to? What if the sacrifice that you have to pay for this is your attachment to this idea that someone else can cause you suffering and that it's not always in your control? What if you'd had to let go of that idea in order to regain your natural happiness, your natural freedom to choose to suffer when you want to, when you think it's reasonable for whatever reason, and to not suffer when it seems unreasonable to you and you don't feel like suffering that moment? Maybe the next moment you do feel like suffering because we're what's that word? Melodramatic, melancholically oriented beings. We love the drama, we love the soft stories, we love the passion, we love the risk and reward ratio, we love the cause and effect, we love the you're to blame, I'm to blame, I did this, you did this. We love the movies about that, the soap operas. So we're trained in our society to love this stuff, to be absolutely in love with this stuff. But what if you had to sacrifice that passion just a little bit, that hobby of yours, to believe in those thoughts? What if you had to sacrifice that if you wanted to regain this natural capacity to not suffer when you don't want to only suffer when you think it's reasonable? And I'm speaking to an absolute degree, regardless of circumstances. Isn't that great? Like, I'm not telling you should stop suffering. I'm saying suffer when you want to, and simply stop suffering when you don't feel like it. And one day you feel like it because you're in a melodramatic mood, you've just watched a movie and it's giving you some kind of feedback or gratification or some insight into your past with your own relationships or this or that. Great, by all means, enjoy that, learn from it, distill from it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't allow for some degree of suffering in your life. But so many of us claim that we don't want to suffer when we do. Now that one has to go. That's a weak-ass belief system that doesn't serve you. It's not factual. It's not mechanically accurate in any way, shape, or form. It's a complete delusion. It's a complete choice. And if we're not able to admit that to ourselves and be willing to free ourselves of that belief system, that indoctrination that we're weak and vulnerable and victimized, then you will not be able to see that you always have the empowerment. You always have access to the empowerment to not suffer if you don't want to. Doesn't take away your freedom to suffer, but just know whenever you suffer past this point, it's because you want to. And that's difficult to admit for a lot of people because our enjoyment of the suffering, our weird sense of righteous gratification that this small distorted version of happiness that we extract from suffering usually is due to the fact that we can't change it. And that's the thing to sacrifice. If you want true empowerment, you can't live with that in your mind. It cannot exist for you. You have to be non-concession based. You cannot make concessions on this. Truth, this fact of life, you can, but then you won't gain the empowerment of your natural freedom. You won't gain full control of this happiness hack, this stop suffering whenever you want to, regardless of circumstances knack. So if you want this switch, you got to be a little willing here. You got to put something in the fire of sacrifice here. And that is your addiction to suffering / enjoying the idea that you're suffering because of something that you can't change and that you can't stop suffering. So that's up to you, completely up to you, whether you're ready for that, whether you want that, to what degree you're ready for that. But here is a very simple tool to establish that. Here's how to stop suffering when you don't want to, and when you know it's up to you. That's the important sort of side note there. You have a mind, it suffers, and you can use your mind to stop that suffering. That's the basic claim, that's the premise, that's the promise. It is a promise, it's a guarantee. If you understand what I say, what I'm about to share, it's very simple. If you understand it and you apply it as it is intended, it's my promise and guarantee that you can stop suffering whenever you want to, at will, regardless of circumstances. Whether you accept that as a gift, as a remembrance, as something you can activate or not, is entirely up to you. Now, the mind, and here goes the little lecture. The mind has two aspects to it. Very simple. You have a mind, and it has two aspects to it. One aspect could be described as the contents of your mind. Essentially anything that you can say anything about in your mind, anything that you can describe, that you can give a label, that you can notice, that you can highlight, that you can emphasize, that you can identify, that you can tell your friends stories about, that you can tell yourself stories about. In essence, anything that you are aware of, like an object of perception, a thought, an emotion, a worldly object, your chair, my face, those are the contents of your mind. Very simple. No, I think everyone can agree to this. These are the contents of your mind, of what you're experiencing within your mind. The other aspect of your mind, the very mind that's listening to me right now, effortlessly, this beautiful mind, because we often say the mind is a bad thing, but you have to understand the second aspect of the mind, which makes it a beautiful, beautiful thing. The second aspect, which is really its first aspect, meaning its primary, is the basis or nature of the mind. So we have contents, and then we have the basis of mind, or the nature of mind, what it is, the mind itself, you could say. When you have a storage container and you fill it with stuff, you've got the contents, and you've got the container, you've got the basis. When you've got sky, which is the basis, then you can have clouds, which are the contents. When you create a gold ring, you have the basis, which is gold, and you have shaped it into a form, which is the content, the appearance of the ring, its function, its specificity. And so your mind right now has this primary aspect to it, which goes unnoticed for most people most of the time, and for a lot of people all of the time. They die without ever recognizing the basis of mind. So if you highlight for a moment the contents of your mind right now, just whatever you're observing, my voice, the screen, sensation in your body, your lips, your face, where your eyes are wandering off to, the appearances in your room, the wall, the paint, the furniture. Just notice that those are not real per se. You say they are real, you think they're real. But first and foremost, all these things that you can identify within your experience are the mind's contents. They are the content of and within your very own natural mind. Now acknowledge that if you didn't have a mind, so to speak, or if you weren't present here, if you didn't have this aware basis, you would not be able to know anything. So you can notice the contents of your mind, but here's this simple shift that everyone overlooks, which allows you to stop suffering at will. And that is where you place your attention or focus, on which aspect of the mind. Is it on the form? Is it on the camera? Is it on your webcam? Is it on your computer? Is it on the sound of my voice? Is it on the shape of your room? Is it on how you feel right now, what thoughts and emotions you might have? Or is your attention on the basis of mind? And what is that basis of mind? Another word for that would be awareness. The mind is aware, that is its nature, and then it's aware of the contents, the projections, if you will. So if the mind's essence or basic nature is like the light of a projector, in a cinema, then the mind is the projected images. Once this basic essential white light distorts itself through a filter, an interpretation, in our case, a description that the mind gives to its experience, a label, an idea, an ideology, a belief. Those are the images that filter the light that cause the projection of the movie of our life, the contents. But how many of you and how many of humanity, what percentage of their day, of your day, is spent focusing on the contents of your mind versus the basis of your mind? And you can just be honest with yourself, because that's the only way to grow. How often, how frequently, how consistently throughout your moment-to-moment daily life do you recognize the very fact that you exist as mind or as consciousness? How often and how much and with what degree of joy and intensity and eagerness and desire and passion for knowing God's nature through your own mind, through your own beingness? How much time, how much energy do you spend on a day-to-day basis? Be honest. It'll be less than 1%, I'll tell you. Do you focus your attention on the basis of mind, the nature of self, versus the contents, the descriptions, the stories, your neighbors, your partners, yourself as a thought? It's probably less than 1%, no? Even for the most spiritually aligned, devoted among us. And here's the thing, it doesn't have to be more than 50% to give you the capacity to stop suffering whenever you want. It doesn't even have to be 1% of your day. You could be lost in stories for months. And months down the road, if you remember, if that's your first moment of remembrance, that the mind also has this basic sky-like aware nature that enables you to suffer, that enables you to describe your experiences, that enables you to even have content, that basic sky-like, space-like aware intelligence, which right now hears my voice without you having to try, that very sense that I exist, that you are. Even if you forget all about this for 3 months, and you're just entering into this bubble, this timeline, this theme of suffering and vulnerability and smallness and relationship this, relationship that, all that story, all that movie, you're lost in the movie of the contents of your life for 3 months. If you have, before those 3 months, if you have learned this switch, then after those 3 months, you don't need anything else. You don't need a driver's license. You don't need to have done it every single day for more than 1% of your day. In that moment, if you remember that your mind has also a basis, which is like space, and you shift your attention from the story you've been indulging for these 3 months to the basic nature, the presence that is so obviously here, hearing my voice, this wide open, formless, constantly present basis of mind, due to which you can even have an experience of contents, due to which you can even story tell yourself into suffering in the first place. Your suffering is owed to the basic nature of mind. Or call it awareness if you prefer. Or this original I am, this beingness. But its nature is to be aware. It has the power to know. Without that beingness, though, without that aware isness to yourself, which right now hears my voice, which right now knows that you exist, you couldn't suffer. So in a weird way, you owe your suffering to that which is free of suffering. But it's how often or how much you are willing to shift your attention from stories to present, from stories to awake, space-like basis of mind, that you can free yourself in that very moment from suffering. And here's just a little test. You can try this out. Because I'm not making empty claims. Now, you might have to get the hang of it a little bit. You might have to understand how to activate this properly, but once you do, my claims are valid for all of eternity. If they are not valid in your experience, you haven't applied them properly. So I stand by my claim that you can suffer at will regardless of circumstances whenever you choose to, when you get this, when you apply this properly. And you can all get this. So again, the philosophy or theory is that the mind has two aspects, contents and basis or essence. And that you can place your attention on one of the two, and if you're focusing more on the stories, on what you are seeing, on the contents, you will suffer and contract usually, to some degree or another. And you will contract yourself and cut yourself off from this natural intelligence, which is skillful, joyful, naturally happy, loving. All these qualities that we seek in life are innately present in the basis of mind. These are natural qualities that we've forgotten, and that's why we want them back. That's why we seek them in every experience. And then we learn, hey, I can't find this in the contents. I can't find this in a temporary experience. That's because these qualities don't exist there. They exist in you, the essence of you, which right now hears my voice. You can't explain it, but you can't deny it. You can't give it a label, but you can't escape it. That basis is the basis of mind. And everyone has the power to recognize it, because even those that think they can't recognize it, but what about this and what about that, and I can't find awareness, they are aware. Otherwise they couldn't describe these things they're aware of that are somehow blocking them from being aware. It's always already here. It's like the background that always illuminates the foreground, like the light that always illuminates the movie. But then we're so lost in the movie that we're looking for this pure white light beneath the movie, before this little distorting belief system or image that shaped the light in the form of the movie of our lives. So now we're seeking for this pure light, but we're seeking for it in the distorted images, in the flawed logic of the movie storyline. We're trying to find it in the storyline. But you can never find pure white light in the storyline of the contents of your mind. You can only find it in the natural basis, which is wide open, naturally open like the sky. Traceless, doesn't leave a single trace, like a bird doesn't leave a flight path in the sky. You can write your name in the sky. The sky doesn't give a damn. It doesn't even store it. You don't even see the outline of your name. Try to write your name in the sky. Me, this is this, that. Sky don't care. Sky is stainless. The basis of your mind don't care. It's stainless. It's pure. It's like actual love.
Masaro University is a vibrant online community dedicated to accelerating your awakening and activating your purpose for the benefit of all. Join live sessions with Bentinho and workshops led by experienced facilitators. Deepen your wisdom, empowerment, and self-knowledge, and experience life-changing shifts week after week. At Masaro University, finding like-hearted seekers is easy and inevitable. Lifelong friendships and a shared purpose fuel profound, personal, and collective growth. Create your free account today at masaro.university and step into a community that's designed to elevate every aspect of your life.
And if you are aware of my voice right now, then you have everything you need to recognize the basis of mind, or the fact that you're conscious. That's it. Recognize the fact that you are conscious, which also is very close to the sensation of noticing that you exist, this feeling of, okay, there's all this stuff going on in my awareness, in my mind, in my life. But if for 2 to 5 seconds I pause that interaction, I can reset myself, and for those 2 to 5 seconds, I can notice this feeling, this awareness that I exist. And it's marvelous, it's miraculous. And it's the most natural thing. It's what's always here, hiding in plain sight. Without it, you couldn't suffer. Without it, you couldn't have a life. Without it, you couldn't tell yourself stories. Without it, you couldn't complain that you can't get back to awareness. Awareness allows you to complain that you can't find your way back into this light. It's the light which enables the story that suggests that you're disconnected from the light. So tell yourself all these things if you want to. But learn to recognize the basis in which it all appears. The light due to which this mysterious, formless, illuminating quality of consciousness, which allows you to have the contents that you're describing and having. This is where gratitude comes in the ultimate sense. The ultimate thing to be grateful for is whatever sources you, right? When you're saying a prayer or some words of gratitude for your meal, for instance, what is it that we do? We acknowledge the source of our food, no? We give thanks to the farmer. We give thanks to the process that was required to get it on your plate. We give thanks for the finances that enabled this. Again, ultimately, we thank God for providing for this, and so on. So what is paying our respects in terms of gratitude? What does it mean when we pay our gratitude? It's always for something, isn't it? And what is it for or towards? It's always towards the source of whatever we appreciate that we have in our lives right now. I'll repeat that. Gratitude is always for the source or cause sometimes. That's a lesser version of it, but you could say the cause of, or the enabler of, the giver of, the source of whatever we appreciate in our lives right now. And I'm saying the ultimate form of gratitude is to pay homage, honor, respect, gratitude to source all the time for everything that happens. Because you couldn't suffer, you couldn't enjoy all this suffering if it wasn't for source. Sounds silly, sounds weird, but at some point, this is what you'll become appreciative of. It's the whole, it's the oneness of it. It's the natural perfection of the all-pervading basis of mind, which right now hears my voice, and you've never had an experience. You've never had a storyline. You've never had an emotion, good or bad, separate from the basis of always already present perfection. Sky-like awareness, sky-like openness, sky-like natural joy, happiness, love, generosity. And yes, this is not your little human mind identity, but that's what we're trying to break free of. No, that's what we're trying to break through. We want to become sky-like, pure, loving, crystal clear, skillful, powerful, perfect timing, awareness, do we not? Or at least infuse some degree of that into our little human vehicle experience. But ultimately, what if we could know ourselves as this vastness? What if we could expand to that degree? What if we could be free of every experience while that's happening? What if we could maintain clarity, crystal clean clarity throughout any emotional turmoil, chaotic experience? What if we could continue to connect to this openness, which is like love just radiating, like a nuclear reactor just radiating, like the sun just radiating? Whatever we think in the meantime, whatever we believe in the meantime doesn't really matter anymore. We start to shift to this wide open, generously radiant nature of the mind. It's through the basis of mind, simply by recognizing it for 2 to 5 seconds, whenever you remember, familiarizing yourself with this natural state of happiness, of sky-like, open forgiveness. There's another term for you. Awareness is forgiveness. Because you can't be purely aware of something and hold a grudge against that something. Even when you hold a grudge against that something, you can begin to realize and experience and feel how even when you mentally hold a grudge against something within your movie, this awareness shines generously with a sense of love and acceptance and clarity and power. It doesn't fear vulnerability. It doesn't even believe in vulnerability. So how could it fear it? It's just beaming. It's ever beaming. The light right now that shines out of your eyes is ever beaming. That's the basis of your mind, the essence. So learn and develop the commitment. Doesn't have to take long. You can get the hang of this within a matter of days. Honestly, truly, it only takes minutes. But within a matter of days, for sure, play around with this. Just stop your story, because it's the stories, the descriptions in your mind that always draw you into the contents of your life. Stop yourself, have the courage to stand up against your own indoctrination, against your own limiting ideas for 2 to 5 seconds. That's all it requires. And in that moment, when you've caught yourself describing an experience and getting lost in it, and you've stopped yourself describing the experience and getting lost in it, now for those 2 to 5 seconds, all you do, it's very simple, very effortless, just let it happen. You recognize the fact that you're aware. And if it helps, you can feel this or picture this as a sky-like, like a wide open blue sky-like awareness. Ultimately, it's beyond that too. It doesn't even have that form. It's freer than sky-like openness. It's even more open than the white blue sky. However, this can help you sort of familiarize yourself and approximate this true, formless, eternal basis of mind, which will connect you to the divinity of all of life, the source of all of life, ultimately. That's what you're becoming transparent to. When you stop your focus on the contents of your mind, aka your life, and you start directing attention to your actual life, life itself. I exist. I am aware right now that I exist. Just that, 2 to 5 seconds. Now you know how to stop suffering, and I want you to test this out. Next time you suffer, next time you tell yourself a story, next time it conjures up an emotion of this is false or this is not fair or whatever, stop yourself for just 5 seconds. Just radically just stop. Just say, no, enough of this story. I don't care if it's true. Maybe it's true. You have to say this to yourself. Okay, so this person betrayed you. I don't care. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's factually, objectively accurate. Who cares? My thoughts about this are contracting me and are limiting my access to wide open, intelligent freedom. Do I want that for this being? Do I hate myself so much that I must stay addicted to my stories? That I must stay focused on the contents of my life? That I must not miss a single moment of what's happening out there, because otherwise I might miss my opportunity to set things straight and make things fair for myself? Do I hate myself that much that I can't even stop my thoughts for 2 to 5 seconds and give myself the gift of recognizing that formless, essential life essence that beams through my eyes right now, thanks to which I can even be arrogant enough to choose suffering over and over again? Pay your respects and gratitude to the source of your life experience. Focus on the aspect of mind which is the basis. Like the sky, a little bit, like the wide open sky. Powerful, free, generous, radiating. So there you have it. Now you never have to suffer again if you don't want to. Excuse taken away. I'm sorry and you're welcome. So remember this, if your friends ever ask you, your family is in need, don't impose, but if there's an opportunity and it's appropriate, ask them, do you have a mind? Well, yeah, duh. Do you ever suffer? Well, yeah, duh. Did you know you can use your mind, simple hack, you can use your mind to stop suffering whenever you want to? Did you know that? Yeah, no, because this person did that. No, you can't. Like, there is no excuse. And then you teach them how. You say, well, the mind has two aspects. One is the contents, the other is the container or the essence or the presence. You suffer when you focus on the contents. Next time you notice that you're suffering, see if you can withdraw your attention from the descriptions about your life and instead place that same attention, which hears my voice right now, onto the essence, the sense of I am, or the sense of open awareness. And be honest with yourself in those 2 seconds, for those 2 successfully awakened seconds, did you suffer? You didn't. You didn't. You didn't. You did not suffer for those 2 seconds. Now, this goes so fast, 2 seconds is a short period of time. It's effective, but it's short. So then the mind comes back in, no, but I still feel the suffering. But for those 2 seconds before you returned to story land, did you suffer? And you did not. I guarantee you, if you did it right, and it's easy to do right, just recognize awareness. The moment you recognize awareness, truly, for that moment, suffering is not present for you. It's a guarantee, it's a fact of life. You cannot be aware of awareness and cultivate active suffering at the same time. Now, we could roughly say there's 2 types of suffering. There's active suffering and passive suffering. Active suffering is what you're doing right now. It's like you spinning the wheel, giving it momentum. Passive suffering is the inertia, the momentum of that. Now, if you stop spinning a wheel, it'll continue to spin for a little bit. That's the momentum you've given it with active suffering. So you could argue, maybe, that even though you're aware of awareness, you're acknowledging and recognizing and paying gratitude, heartfelt gratitude to the basis of mind, just recognizing mind itself, presence itself, consciousness itself, you will see that for those 2 seconds, there is no suffering. But the reason why immediately after the suffering is still there and still seems real is because of the momentum. And often what we do then is, the moment we forget about the basis of mind and we're back into describing the contents of mind, labeling everything, thinking we know what is what and what should be what and who we are, and when we don't know any of that, really. We just think we do. That's the arrogance I was talking about. So when we're back in description land, we're now putting more motion into that wheel of suffering again. And suffering hides in little places. You're suffering right now, you don't even know it. To some degree, you're suffering right now, but we call it normal. We call it just human baseline level of, some even call it happiness. I see many people who are suffering, they think they are happy. And I don't want to burst that bubble, that's great. But when you get so used to being sick, every little bit of relief is going to feel like happiness, even though you're still sick, just to use an analogy. So it's similar. Being so used to tolerating contraction, limitation, believing we're this small, tiny little meat suit in an objective, dangerous, alien, harsh, unpredictable universe of physical matter, and that we have very little power to do anything. So our only power is to protect ourselves and to avoid discomfort. That whole mental belief system, ideology, it's just an ideology. It's not true. Causes us to learn to tolerate suffering as if it's normal. But when you start connecting to true awareness, to the essential awareness of mind, the basic essence of mind, the basic space of mind, when you start recognizing this consciously, that it's always already here, that it's always already free of resentment, that it's always already free, even in the midst of whatever you're emoting right now, whatever you're thinking, it doesn't believe whatever you're thinking. You're already free from believing in your own thoughts, which is the greatest liberation. And you should want this more than anything. You shouldn't defend your thoughts. You should go against your thoughts just by letting them be. You're not believing in them. But don't go along with them, because they cause your suffering, the delusion. The essence of mind will set you free of this. Simple as that. All you got to do is recognize it over and over again, 2 to 5 seconds at a time, 2 to 5 times an hour for 2 to 5 days, and you will have made great progress at getting that hang of this little shift. It's like openness, learning how to be open. Simple openness. I was contracting, I was thinking. Now I'm wide open like the sky. Can you be wide open like the sky, noticing, enjoying this quality of intelligence, the power to know? And that's it. And then continue with your story. And then interrupt your story. Pause yourself. Open yourself up like the sky. Recognize this intelligent quality. Do this over and over again. And I promise you, you will very quickly gain the capacity to stop suffering at will. And then why you continue to suffer if you don't have to, that's a whole other story, right? We can write books about that. And we can have Q&As about that. And that's really why we're diving into all these topics, is because we're not willing to free ourselves. Just a little bit, but not a lot. We don't like to stop suffering altogether. We're too invested in it. So basically every other dialogue we have is because this first foundational core principle is not applied, because it's not desired. So the whole spiritual journey is about maturation, about understanding clearly why you do what you do and if it's truly beneficial or not. And do you want to continue to do that or not? That's the bulk of the spiritual journey. It's not so much awakening. Awakening is simple. It's easy. It's not a process. It's a recognition away every single moment of your life. It's that simple. There is no excuse. You either recognize awareness or you're lost in story mode. That's all. Those are the 2 modes of your mind. Get lost in the story of your life or recognize the fact that you exist. End of story. Perfect. And the more you do that, something happens, if you will, energetically to the essence of the mind. It becomes transparent to God, to divinity, to unity, to natural non-duality, to infinite capacity, to perfect timing. You might even become funny, humorous, because you see the joke and you're part of the timing and you can play with words more effectively. You've got great insight into psychology, your own psychology and the psychology of others, and everything just becomes clear to you. And so many benefits that are innate to what you are. And they're all activated over time with practice of recognizing the aware, basic space-like essence of mind and prioritizing that right now. Can only practice right now. Remember that. You can only ever practice right now as I'm speaking, not 1 minute from now. You can only ever practice right now. Whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking, that's what you want to let go of for 2 to 5 seconds. That's your opportunity. Whatever you experience right now, that is your opportunity for awakening. There is no other opportunity that's going to come along. There's no other opportunity for awakening that's going to come along for you other than this exact, precise configuration of the universe which you're experiencing right now. Apply this again and again, and very quickly you'll become a master of happiness and a master of suffering. This gives you back your free will to suffer when you want to and to be happy when you want to. Great. All right. I hope this serves you in some way. I'm sure it does. And it's a good foundational core teaching to insert in the beginning of this Bentinho life trajectory and this whole journey and process, or let's call it evolution. Let's not process too much, all right? Let's evolve. Let us evolve through dialogue, through meditation, through recognition, through community, through co-creative endeavors, aligned to the same mission, the same intention for the whole, W-H-O-L-E, the entirety, the completion of mankind's evolution into the next level of its own awareness. Through all that alignment, let us evolve, let us transmute, let us ascend. Let us not unnecessarily journey left, right, up, down, forward, left, right, process, this, that. All more stories. We can address them if we need to from time to time, But let's get us back to the true teachings. Let's get us back to source as soon as we can, as efficiently as we can, as holistically as we can.
Thank you for watching this Bentinho live session. Bentinho now hosts these transformative live sessions completely free, offering profound insights and guidance to support your journey. To attend the next live session with Bentinho, simply visit masaro.university and follow the instructions to create your free account.